ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Hare Krishna. So grateful to be here with all of you today. And I'll speak today on one of the fairly intriguing verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which talks about how we attain spiritual consciousness. So this is based on the 6th chapter. This is a series of verses, but I'll focus on a couple of them. These are often called by our acharyas as the samadhi verses. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaiva atmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. So basically, in the commentary, the 6.20, there is Yatra uparamate chittam niruddham. So nirodha is considered to be one of the stages in the management of the mind. So I'll talk about these stages of the management of the mind from the perspective of yoga, and then we will correlate what happens in bhakti. So the idea is, a few verses before, Krishna has given the example of yathā, dīpo, nivāta-stho. So if we have a candle and we have a flame, so it gives the example that for a mind not trained in yoga, this flame can be very unsteady, where our mind is running here, there, and everywhere, or it can be steady. And so if there's no power supply, it's dark, and we have a candle. Now we can see with the candle, but we can see only to the extent that there is some light. But if you can see only to the extent the candle is steady. But if the candle becomes unsteady, we cannot see. So what is the Gita comparing the candle to over here? So the soul, yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yatra chaiva atmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. So the candle is the soul, and the flame is the consciousness. So there is Atma and there is Chaitanya. So just as if you have a flashlight, there is a source of the light and then there is a beam of light. So the soul is like the Atma, and the source of light is the soul, and the beam of light is the consciousness. Now what happens is that if we consider in modern psychology, modern psychiatry, modern neuroscience, there is a bit of a polarization that has happened. That if we consider, on one side there is Buddhism. Now Buddhism holds that there is consciousness without soul, and Christianity holds that there is soul without consciousness. Now what do I mean by this? Basically, consciousness without soul, what Buddhism says is that yes, we are conscious beings, but there's nothing eternal. That what we consider the soul is basically an illusion. There's anatmavada, or sometimes we call anatmavada. So now whether Buddha actually taught this precisely or subsequent Buddhist teachers brought it in historically, that's a different thing. But the idea is that this is very acceptable for modern science, because modern science also accepts the idea of consciousness. And it says consciousness comes from the brain, and there is no such thing as the soul. Now, what do I mean when I say Christianity talks about a soul without consciousness? that can seem peculiar. How can there not be anything that is consciousness? Well, of course, consciousness is always present, but in the Christian conception of the self, there is there's no proper understanding of the soul or the subtle body or consciousness as the light of the soul. There, the idea is that it's almost as if the soul and the body are inseparable, and because of that, the idea is that when a person dies, Christianity does not have the idea of reincarnation. They have the idea of resurrection. So resurrection is where in the same body you come back. And that is why the Catholic Church, Catholicism is still prevalent in India, quite prominently in Goa, for example. The Catholic Church is strongly against divorce because their idea is that the husband-wife relationship is eternal. The same person whom you had as a spouse here, when you go back to heaven, you will be with the same person. But then if somebody divorces and remarries, then with which spouse will you be? The first one or the second one in heaven? Or even if somebody dies, somebody becomes a widow or a widower, even then they have problems with the idea of a person remarrying sometimes. It depends on particular church's interpretation of things. But the point is, there is no proper understanding of the subtle body and its working. So now, Sanatana Dharma, on the other hand, and if we focus on the Gita's teachings, what it says is the consciousness is real and the soul is also real. So the process of when we want to become purified, Shuddhikaran, it involves two distinct things. One is the realization of the soul. That means the soul is already the reality and we have to realize it. And then there is the redirection of the consciousness. So going back to that, if we consider this as a flashlight, and then there is a beam of light moving out from here. So what happens? Now the beam of light and the soul, which is the source of light. So the beam of light is the consciousness, the source of light is the soul. So when we are trying to practice bhakti or when we are trying to spiritual growth, there are two distinct aspects. And sometimes these two can get confused. One is this beam of light. Right now, we could say often it is directed in the material domain, and we want it to be directed upwards towards the spiritual domain, towards Krishna. And then we have, this beam is to be redirected. And this soul is to be realized. So sometimes, while during the practice of our mantra chanting, we may focus so much on the redirection of the consciousness that we forget about the realization of the soul. What do I mean by that? That, see, one thing is we want our mind to become calm. But another thing to recognize also is that even if the mind is not calm, I can be calm. So sometimes this is one of the biggest mistakes when we make when we are chanting. When we are trying to do mantra chanting, we sometimes end up over identifying with our mind. Over identify. That means because my mind is wandering, therefore I am an insincere devotee. I am a worthless devotee. I am a terrible devotee. I am insincere in my sadhana. No, you are not your mind. That means even if just as we don't want to identify with our body, that okay, I may be too fair, too dark, too tall, too short, too fat, too thin. I may be South Indian, North Indian, male, female. Just as we should not identify too much with our body, we should not identify too much with our mind. That
I am not my mind. And even if my mind is wandering, I am not my mind. So what happens is that I am the soul. And the mind is just like a restless child. The mind will run here, there, everywhere. Just like a child may run here, there in the house. Now, the mother has to be concerned about calming the mind, calming the child. But at the same time, the mother should not identify with the child so much that the mother starts thinking, because my child is not calm, my child is not disciplined, so I am a worthless mother. So sometimes what happens, I am a fallen soul. We have all have heard this statement many times. Sometimes what happens is, I am, this fallen becomes so big, the fact that I am a soul. And that's why sometimes the practice of chanting itself can cause more insecurity, inferiority, guilt to a sadhaka. That, okay, maybe I'm not, as a student, I'm not getting good enough marks in my exam. Maybe as a book distributor, I'm not able to distribute books. Maybe as a fundraiser, I'm not able to raise that much funds. Maybe in my job, I'm not doing well. So there are so many sources of insecurity and inferiority for us in the world. And our chanting becomes one more source of insecurity. Oh, I can't focus on my the holy name, therefore I'm not a good devotee. I'm a terrible devotee. This happens when we over identify with the mind. So who is fallen? The mind is fallen. The soul is not fallen. And ideally it should be a fallen. This is true, but I am the soul. So fallen is a temporary designation. Yes, I may be fallen for 1 year, I may be fallen for 10 years. Even if I am fallen for 100 lifetimes, still 100 lifetimes is also a temporary designation. So sarvopadhi vinirmuktam, that giving up all designations means also giving up the designation that I am my mind, and the state of my mind identifies becomes my identity as a devotee. So that's why chanting, the last point I'll make over here is that in one sense, when we're chanting Ma Manusmara Yudhyacha, chanting has two distinct aspects. That Mam Anusmara is the mood of Vrindavan, and Yudhyacha is the mood of Kurukshetra. Hmm? Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. So Anusmara is remember, Yudhya is Anusmara is remember. So that is in Vrindavan, Krishna is already there, and it is the spiritual world, and we just have to relish the presence of Krishna. And in Kurukshetra, we need to fight for the service of Krishna. Now, Arjuna was not passively sitting, oh Krishna, you kill all the enemies, I'll just wait and watch. Arjuna was fighting. But what happens is, we cannot be completely in the mood of Kurukshetra, we cannot be completely in the mood of Vrindavan. So, if we are too much in the mode of Vrindavan, then what happens is we forget that there is a mind. I am not the mind, but we forget that I have a mind and the mind is restless. So if I try to be very peaceful in my chanting, the mind will very sneakily go away and I will not even realize where the mind is going. So we don't want to forget the mind. That will be unhealthy. Then we will wander off and we'll not even realize that we have wandered off. On the other hand, if we forget that, sorry, what's happening here? Stop annotation, yeah. On the other hand, if we forget that there is Kurukshetra, then there is also going to be a problem that if we only get caught in the Kurukshetra, then we'll forget that there is a soul. There is a part of me which is unchanging, which is a part of Krishna always. And Krishna is always with me next to the soul as the super soul. So there is this simultaneous process of both realizing
the soul and redirecting the mind. So, ma'am, from the Vrindavan aspect, the soul is always a part of Krishna. So, we realize the soul. That means this is not the mood of fighting. Just be calm. Just let the sound of the holy name draw us toward the awareness of the presence of Krishna, our real identity as soul. So this is where we just it's so not so much this the focus is not so much control, it is curiosity, it is openness, it is receptivity. Krishna is already here. Just let me be receptive to Krishna and redirect the mind. That is also important. And this is where we, to some extent, need discipline. We need focus. We need concentration. Hmm? But these two are very different modes, concentration and curiosity. Now, the last point, about last part of this last point is that, see, when we are concentrating, the effort is okay. Maybe we are attending a class and we are trying to understand what is being spoken. So, concentration is a lot of conscious effort. So, it's almost like closing. We're concentrating on something, then maybe if we are hearing a video talk like a Zoom talk, then we close the doors and windows. If somebody is there, we tell them to be silent, or we put noise cancelling earphones that we can concentrate. But curiosity is, say, if you come to a new place, mm, say if you come to a natural scenic place like the Govardhan Eco Village, or in Goa also there is you have some resort like places where you have centers, you go there. So curiosity means also you're interested. Okay, but what is here? Okay, what kind of temple is here? What are the deities over here? How are they decorated? How is the park over here? So curiosity is a matter of openness. So we just open our consciousness to see what is there. So concentration is we we are telling the mind, go there. Go there means go towards the holy name. Curiosity is Krishna is here. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to take the mind anywhere. Krishna is here right now. Just let me see how Krishna is here. So, if we focus too much on the mind, go there, then chanting can become quite exhausting and frustrating, because that is, we are only doing one part of the whole process of a spiritual awakening. Now, if you only focus on Krishna is here, yes, Krishna is here, but I am not here because my mind is going everywhere. So, curiosity and concentration, when both come together, we find that the process of connecting with Krishna will become much, much more powerful and enriching. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. I was talking about, you know, mind management in meditation. Mm. When we are trying to do a mantra chanting, and how do we do that? So I talked about three distinct points I have said. First is that, the Gita uses the example that we are like a yathā, dīpo, nivāta-stho ningate sopama smritaha. So the candle is the soul, and the flame of the candle is the consciousness. So what do we want to do? In one sense, we want to make this flame steady. But for the flame to be steady, we have to understand that actually, not only do I have to stop the wind from coming, but I also have to keep the base steady. If my hand is itself not steady, then I will not be able to keep the candle steady even if there is no wind. So steadying the candle means two things. My grip has to become steady. My hold on the candle has to be grip on the candle has to become steady, and then the wind has to be stopped. All right, the wind has to decrease. Either the wind itself stops, or I go to a windless place, whichever way it is. So these two correspond to that we redirect the mind. That means the mind is going here and there. The flame is steady, unsteady. I make it steady, but then I realize the soul. When I realize the soul means that I understand there is a part of me which is already steady. Just let me focus on recognizing that part. So then I talk about how two ways we can go extreme. That now we think there is only the mind without the mind or consciousness without the soul, or soul without the mind or consciousness. Hmm? The mind and consciousness are not exactly the same thing, but most of our consciousness experience through the mind. So these are two unhealthy extremes. When we think of there's only mind without the soul, then there is over identification with the mind. I am a fallen soul. Soul becomes tiny and fallen becomes too long. And there's only identification of the soul without the mind. Then there is how do I do exactly sadhana? How do I purify myself? Purification becomes difficult to figure out. That we discuss with the problem of Buddhism and Christianity. So in between, we need to do both. That's what we discussed. And for doing this both, so during our process of mantra chanting, mantra meditation, if we consider, there are two modes. One is the mode of concentration that is required so that we can focus the mind. To redirect the mind, going back to that theme of, so the mind is going here and there. The flame, which is going here and there, the flashlight's beam, which is going very and there. We want to focus it or want to study it. But then there's also curiosity. Concentration is, oh, mind, go there. Don't go here, there, anywhere. Go towards Krishna. But curiosity is realize. Realize the soul. Realize Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. Realize Krishna. That Krishna is the soul of the soul. So here the idea is Krishna is already here. Just be open, be receptive. So realize both of these aspects are there. And when we learn to balance both these aspects, that's when our mantra chanting can become especially transformative. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
you spoke very nicely. Thank you very much for highlighting that soul is different, consciousness is different, and many a times speakers give a lot of prominence on consciousness कि अरे आपका mind खराब है, ये है, वो है. But then there is this thought that I am a very bad devotee because my mind is, जैसे आपने कहा कि इसको अलग रखना चाहिए, उसको अलग रखना चाहिए. But there is a class of preachers who give a lot of prominence only on consciousness. And I can also understand कि as practitioners थोड़े समय तक साधना करने के बाद by default हमारी कॉलर थोड़ी टाइट हो ही जाती है. आई एम अ गुड डिवोटी. And that can work as a check and balance, nice check and balance. But then how to harmonize this thing? कि कुछ speakers इसी पर ज्यादा महत्व देते हैं
No,
कि
see, I think I appreciate the point. And my point was not to criticize any of the speakers. See, Krishna works in different ways in different hearts. So some people, they may have grown up in an ethos of a lot of discipline. And then it is through the ethos of discipline that they approach Krishna. And means, exactly wake up at this time only, I do this by this time only, do this by this time only, do it like this, do it like that. So some people experience Krishna through consistency and structure. And or say, for example, somebody is a pujari. Then okay, this is the time you have to wake up the lady. This is the time you have to come here. So pujari service focuses on consistency, structure, predictability, order. But if you consider some other service, somebody is a traveling speaker, somebody is a book distributor. No, if you're traveling from city to city, we don't control the flight timings, we don't control the delays. So then you're going to new places. Now there also everybody needs to have some structure. But I know many Prabhupada disciples who said that if I had not been so fanatical about my sadhana, my health would have been much better now. So you sleep at 1 o'clock and still you say, I'll be going to wake up at 4 o'clock. And now you say, don't sleep at 1 o'clock, sleep at 10 o'clock or sleep at 9 o'clock or 10:30, whatever. But sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes programs happen, sometimes this happens, that happens. So my point is that for some people, it is more of curiosity and novelty and adventure. Some people strive in structure, some people strive in not the strive, thrive in adventure. And this is just the type of people. So the problem is that if we equate Krishna consciousness with only one thing, hmm, that if we equate Krishna consciousness only with structure, or if we equate Krishna consciousness only with adventure. So these are just different ways people's minds function. In general, people who are very creative. I was one sannyasi, he was doing Tulsi Aarti once, I was this long time ago in Pune, and suddenly in the middle of Tulsi Aarti, he completed the Diya and he took out a notepad and he noted something in his diary and then he continued Tulsi Aarti. So I asked him what happened. He said he was writing a book and he suddenly got an idea. He said, I don't want to lose the idea. He said that I see every idea as Krishna's mercy coming to me. And I want to be receptive to Krishna's mercy. Now, when creativity comes, creativity does not come on our timetable. Now, I'm not recommending that we all interrupt our chanting to write down our ideas. That will not be a good idea. Hmm? But for people who have come to know themselves and who have to some extent understood how best they work, that there needs to be that space for adventure. Let's say it could be artist creative adventure, it could be intellectual adventure. Mm. So that idea, there are, as you probably know, there is one spiritual master in our movement who emphasizes a lot on the study of the Bhagavatam. And his idea is that the brain is the sharpest in the morning. So he said you should study the Bhagavatam in the morning. Chanting you can do any time in the day. Chanting does not require your brain to be in Sattva Guna. It requires, so when your brain is the sharpest, do study. That's the time you memorize verses. That's the time you understand Bhagavatam. So now that is not the standard in ISKCON. But is he wrong? I don't think he's wrong. So the thing is that we need to have some level of scope for different kinds of devotees. So everybody needs structure, but how much structure should be there? That will vary for different devotees. So some devotees with structure thrive, and some devotees with structure feel suffocated. So for some devotees, redirecting the mind is more important. For some devotees, realizing the soul is more important. That means, so as one devotee who told me recently, this is again a Prabhupada disciple, I wouldn't want to mention his name. He said that the first 5-6 times he came to Vrindavan, he said, I had resolved I'll be chanting every single day in Vrindavan. I'll be chanting 128 rounds. And he said, I was so busy chanting that I completely missed Vrindavan. Because even with Govardhan, instead of looking at Govardhan, while being at Radha Kund, instead of beholding Radha Kund, I was busy chanting. So now, chanting is one way we are experiencing Krishna. And being in Radha Kund, being before Govardhan, that's also another way to experience Krishna. So we cannot reduce Krishna to say that Krishna, this is the only way Krishna can come in my heart and my mind. At the same time, we cannot also say that, there is no structure, there's no discipline, whichever way Krishna comes, I'll accept it. So we have to find each individual, we have to find that balance between structure and adventure. And we have that example in our tradition also of, I forget the name. There's this devotee who was chanting while a class was going on, and now that devotee was chanting that devotee. But then, anyway, I won't go to that example. I'll maybe in a future class I'll tell the exact reference. My point is that Krishna manifests in different ways at different times. So Krishna does not necessarily manifest through our structure. Krishna can manifest according to his plan. So we need to be open to Krishna's plan also. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
So thank you very much. It's wonderful being here with all of you. Shri
We are also
Prabhupada
very
ki jai.
grateful टू चैतन्य चरण प्रभु कि वो हमारे बीच में आए अपने बहुत ही व्यस्त शेड्यूल के बीच में से। प्रभु जी पिछले 30 वर्षों से अधिक समय से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कृष्ण भावनामृत संघ में एक ब्रह्मचारी के रूप में सेवा कर रहे हैं। बहुत ही वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण से भक्ति के तत्वों को वो हम सभी को सिखाते हैं। कई बार प्रभु जी इतनी सिंप्लिसिटी से इतने गूढ़ तत्वों का समझाते हैं कि हमें लगता है अरे ये इतना इजी है, इतना सिंपल है। प्रभु जी का एक डेली व्लॉग भी है gitaDaily.com, जिसमें वो अपने विचार प्रकट करते हैं। प्रभु जी पिछली बार भी आए थे, हमें भक्ति में हमारे जो एंग्जाइटीज हैं वो कैसे होते हैं, उनसे कैसे उभरना चाहिए, भगवान कैसे हमसे रेसिप्रोकेट करते हैं, इसके बारे में बताया। आज भी प्रभु जी ने हमें बहुत सुंदर रूप से कि चेतना एक है, हम एक हैं। कई बार चेतना के ऊपर कार्य करते करते हम कई बार अपने को और भगवान को भूल सकते हैं, इसके बारे में भी बताया। सो मैं प्रभु जी का हार्दिक आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ कि he keeps on coming between us and giving us his realizations in the most wonderful way. Thank you very, very much, Prabhuji, for being with us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Sorry, my camera couldn't work out. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. Hari Hari.
Hari Hari.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.